Imagine standing at a crossroads. To your left, the allure of a life abroad, filled with promises and opportunities. To your right, your homeland, Bosnia and Herzegovina, a place you deeply love, but also one that presents its own set of challenges. This isn't just a metaphorical crossroads. It's a decision many of you face or will face. Before we delve into our discussion today, I'd like to get a sense of your experience. By a show of hand, how many of you voted in the 2020 elections or know someone who voted in 2020 elections? Okay. Now, how many of you had the right to vote but chose not to do it in 2020? And who among you was on the electoral list in 2020? Okay, statistics tell us that 49% of your peers didn't vote in the 2020 elections. Why is that? Why don't you, the youth, vote for your own? Why aren't your voices and concerns echoed by young politicians? Today, I want to dive deep into your shared experiences, the challenges you confront, and how we can shape a future here in BiH that all of you can be proud of. Since December 2010, citizens of BiH have been able to travel visa-free to EU countries. The EU was concerned that this would trigger a sudden wave of emigration from BiH. But that mass exodus didn't immediately happen. However, we have witnessed a significant surge in immigration over the past 3 years. Research on youth in BiH conducted by the Institute for Youth Development KULT 2 years ago reveals a concerning trend. Over 50% of the youth want to leave the country. And more than 12% have already taken concrete steps towards that goal. The Institute has been drawing attention to this through its campaign, #NaturDaidem. But what's driving this desire? The youth primarily cite a lack of prospects and the government's indifference towards them. Their concerns span across employment, education, healthcare, safety. Let's take a moment to truly understand the landscape of our political engagement, especially among the youth. I'd like to share some statistics with you, and I encourage you to reflect on what these numbers mean for our country's future. Firstly, let's consider potential voters. Out of a total of 3.4 million potential voters, only 17% were young people. This contrasts sharply with the 83% who were older than 30. Now, when we turn to actual voting, out of the 1.7 million people who voted, 17% were young. This means that 51% of young potential voters exercised their right to vote. However, it's essential to note that a significant number chose not to participate. That's 49% of the youth not casting their vote. Let's now focus on the candidates. Out of a total of about 31,000 candidates in the 2020 elections, 24% were young. The disparity becomes even more evident when we look at the mayoral candidates. Out of 425, only 16 were young, making up a mere 4%. The rest were older than 30. And when the votes were counted, out of the 3.3 thousand elected officials, only 13% were young. From the previous statistics, we conclude that young voters do not place their trust in young candidates during elections. I then found myself wondering, why is that? Drawing from the extensive research conducted by the Institute for Youth Development, CULT, and observing young politicians who have undergone a training for youth political leaders, UMIDP, a pattern emerges. It appears that elected young politicians often don't prioritize addressing the concerns of the youth. Instead, even in local elections, their campaigns tend to focus on broader themes: global politics, industry, transportation, and nationalistic topics. This leads us to a classic conundrum, akin to the chicken or the egg dilemma. Are young politicians neglecting youth concerns because young people are not turning up to vote? Or is it the other way around? Are the youth abstaining from voting because no one seems to be genuinely addressing their issues? It's a cycle that perpetuates itself. The youth feel unheard, so they disengage. Politicians, in turn, don't see the youth as a significant voting bloc, so they don't tailor their campaigns to address their concerns. Breaking this cycle is crucial for BiH's future. The question is how to break it. Now let's play a little game of political matchmaking. Imagine a dating app, but instead of swiping for dates, you are swiping for your ideal political candidates. You come across a profile of a young, enthusiastic candidate who promised change. But wait, you swipe left. Why? Why do we often swipe left on young politicians? First off, there is the experience paradox. Many young voters think they are just like me. What do they know about running a town or a country? It's like expecting someone who's great at playing SimCity to run my city. Then there is the identity crisis. Just because they are young doesn't mean they are just like you. Maybe they love rock music and you are all about jazz. Or they are all about global politics while you are waiting for someone to fix the Wi-Fi in your youth center. And let's not forget the old soul syndrome. Some young politicians want to appear wise beyond their years. So they adapt the mannerism, speech patterns, and even the policy preferences of older politicians. It's like seeing a teenager wearing grandpa's clothes and wondering, fashion statement or laundry day mishap. So while we might be quick to swipe left on young politicians, maybe it's time to give them a second look. After all, in the game of politics, it's not just about age. It's about understanding, connection, and the promise of a better future. Let's address a glaring issue. It's like the elephant in the room that no one's talking about. Our young political candidates, brimming with potential and promise, often miss the mark in their campaigns, instead on focusing on the very real and pressing issues faced by their peers. They often gravitate towards broader, more mature topics. It's as if there is a rite of passage where they feel the need to prove themselves by discussing global politics. But in doing so, they inadvertently alienate their most significant political support base, the youth. Once elected, these young politicians continue this trajectory, often neglecting the concerns of their peers. Issues like unemployment among the youth, the quality of education, mental health support, and opportunities for growth within the country are put on hold. And what's the result? A disillusioned youth who feel their concerns are unheard and unaddressed, leading many to seek opportunities elsewhere, outside of this country. It's a vicious cycle. young politicians trying to fit into the mold of serious politics end up neglecting the very issues that could ensure a vibrant, thriving future for our country. And the youth, feeling unheard, either disengage from the political process or they seek greener pastures elsewhere. So, what drives our young politicians to do this pattern of behavior? Why do they often sidestep the very issues that resonate with their age group? Let's talk about some potential reasons. In the big and sometimes scary world of politics, young politicians might feel like they have to act like the older, more traditional politicians, to be taken seriously. They might worry that if they talk about the issues that young people face, others might think they are not serious or don't know what they are doing. This leads to a common belief in politics, that to be a successful politician, you have to talk about grown-up topics. Because of this, young politicians might avoid talking about the things that really matter to young people, worried that it might limit their chances to grow in their political careers. Even though they are young themselves, these politicians might not really understand all the different problems that people their age are dealing with. This could be because they grew up in a different environment or haven't faced the same challenges, which means that they don't focus on helping young people as much as they should. Another thing that makes this all more complicated is the influence of big political parties. Young politicians are often part of these groups that have their own plans and goals. These parties might push young members to stick to the party's ideas, which might not really match what young people care about. Lastly, there is this trend where young politicians try to act like the older ones, hoping to earn respect in a system that often thinks older means wiser. This can sometimes stifle the new and exciting ideas that young politicians can bring to this discussion. But why should young politicians prioritize the concerns of their peers? What's in it for them? By really listening to what young people are worried about, young politicians can connect with a lot more voters, especially those who haven't been too interested in politics before. This isn't just good for them, but it's also great for making our democracy stronger and fairer, because it includes ideas and opinions from a much larger group of people. Also, they have this awesome chance to do something that will be remembered for a long time. By focusing on that young people care about and coming up with new and exciting solutions, they can make changes that help everyone and make our society better and more forward-thinking. Plus, when they talk about things that matter to them and to other young people, it feels real and honest. This isn't just about getting more votes. It's about growing as a person, understanding what people their age are going through, and finding ways to make things better. It's a way to learn and grow, becoming not just better leaders, but also people who really understand what's happening in our fast-changing world. With these benefits in mind, it becomes clear that prioritizing young people, young youth issues, isn't just a noble endeavor. It's a strategic one. It's a win-win, benefiting both the youth and young politicians and the society that they aim to serve. Having dissected the challenges and understood the motivations, let's pivot to solutions. How can our young politicians not only capture the attention, but also the trust and votes of their peers, especially those who have been historically disengaged from the voting process? Here are some solutions. It's not enough to just talk about the youth. Politicians need to talk with them. This means hosting town hall meetings, engaging in open forums, and being present on platforms where the youth are active. Listen first, then act. Young politicians need to champion causes that resonate with their age group. This doesn't mean sidelining other issues, but rather integrating youth perspectives into broader political discussions. The youth value authenticity. Young politicians should be transparent about their motivations, their goals, and even their limitations. It's okay not to have all the answers, but it's crucial to be genuine in the quest to find them. While it's essential to bring fresh perspectives, it's equally vital to learn from those who have been in the field. Collaborating with experienced politicians can provide valuable insights while ensuring that youth issues aren't sidelined. Many young individuals might not vote because they don't understand the system or feel that their voice doesn't matter. Young politicians can play a pivotal role in educating their peers about the significance of each vote and the tangible impact it can have. Instead of waiting for the system to change, young politicians should embody the change they wish to see. This means leading by example, being accessible, and constantly seeking feedback. The path to engaging the youth in the political process is paved with genuine efforts, understanding, and collaboration. Our young politicians have the potential to not only represent but also empower a young generation. And in doing so, they can shape a brighter, more inclusive future for all. All right, let's wrap up with a bit of flair. Imagine for a moment that politics is like the ultimate group project. We have all been there, right? There is always that one person who does all the work. A few who show up just for the presentation, and some who, well, like today, they are just here for the free snacks. But what if everyone actually pitched in? Imagine the masterpiece we could create. Don't just be there for the snacks. Grab that marker, take charge of the PowerPoint, and let's ace this project together. Remember, with campaigns like Neću da idem, we are not just saying, I won't go. We are declaring, I will stay and make a difference. So let's do just that. Stay, vote, and shape the future we all deserve. Thank you.